Good evening. Welcome to the Nuvee Club podcast. My name is Big Mike, broadcasting live as always from somewhere on Long Island, joined by the one and only Sanjay Singh from somewhere in New York City. Turns out I don't know exactly where. You don't know exactly where. It doesn't really matter. Sanjay, how are you?
Doing all right, Big Mike. How you doing?
I'm okay. It's starting to feel like summer. Today, I think, is the first day or the second day that actually feels like summer, and that's exciting. Are you excited?
Very exciting. I'm excited, man. You know, whenever the sun's out past 8 p.m., I'm excited because it means bedtime's not for a little bit longer.
That's one way to look at it. So this is the Nuvee Club podcast. People always say to me, they ask Sanjay just walking down the street. He was down there in Brooklyn this weekend. They stop him. They say, Sanjay, what is the Nuvee Club podcast? And we try to explain it the best we can. Nuvee Club podcast it's two guys talking about things we like. We like movies. We like making movies. We like watching movies. We like talking about movies. But this isn't that. Well, it's not only that. It's the Nuvee Club podcast. Thanks for coming. It's the Nuvee Club podcast. It's the Nuvee Club podcast. Those are the lyrics to that song.
Yeah. It's nice. Again, with the wordsmithing, you know, you always figuring out some kind of ad-lib to go along with the background. Yeah.
I try. And speaking of ad-libbing, there was a lot of ad-libbing done this weekend at the Mommy Poppins Travel Fest down at the Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn. I was there on behalf of Dreams Resorts and Spas, hosting their MasterChef Junior Mystery Box Challenge. I was looking forward to it for quite a while. It was a very thrilling thing to be asked to host, and Sanjay Singh himself came out and watched one of the shows. Sanjay, what did you think?
I thought it was a very, very exciting exhibition of young talent and young creativity. There was a lot of energy, there was a lot of sugar, and there was a lot of yelling.
There certainly was a lot of sugar and a lot of yelling. What I like about it is, so you have the Hyatt company, and one of their brands is Dreams Resorts and Spas. It's a family brand. They also have Secrets, which is an unlimited luxury, all-inclusive style resort in the Caribbean, and Dreams Resorts and Spas is the family version of that. And they cooked up a collaboration with MasterChef Junior, the television show. So they have curated menus, they have activities for kids. So if your kids are into that, or if you're looking for something kind of outside the box for your vacation experience, that's how it all came together. And obviously they're out there promoting this, and that's how I ended up getting involved, because I've worked with them previously. So it's kind of unique in that space, at least from where I sit, and I love the creativity that goes along with it. And I myself didn't really watch the show. I didn't know much about it, but I watched a bunch of it to prepare to host it, and it certainly is. I could see why a family would sit down and watch this and make this some of their core programming, because it is entertaining, focuses on creativity, it rewards creativity, and it really seems like it's all in good fun. And we were able to bring that to a live experience in Brooklyn for the Mommy Poppins Travel Festival. It was a lot of fun. It was good to see you as well. So how long did it take you to get down to that area of Brooklyn?
It took me like 15 minutes. It actually took me longer to find where it was.
Yeah.
When I got there than it did to actually travel to that part of Brooklyn. Just one train stop away from Chinatown. But I'm walking through Best Buy and Mattress Firm, and I'm realizing, wait a second. I finally find a stanchion that says next to the Nike. So I'm like, okay, so it's next to the Nike. So I'm looking where the Nike is. I'm like, oh, this is on the street. It's on the block. It's not inside the building. So I finally found it and walked in, and there's a lot of kids, a lot of parents, and I was lonesome. So I was like, where's Big Mike? And I tried to find the MasterChef corner, and a lovely lady making cupcakes asked me if I would like a cupcake, and I said, I would like a Big Mike, please.
Yes, give me a Big Mike with extra sprinkles. Well, that's good. We're talking about creations. I actually took the week off of creating. I was prepping for my appearance with the Mommy Poppins Travel Fest, so I didn't really work on a lot of things. There was a lot of videos and stuff for work that I had put together in the previous weeks, and they finally dropped everything. So everything that I've created previously is now out for public consumption, so I kind of took the week off of creating, got back to it this week. But how about you? What did you create this week?
Yeah, I've been in marketing mode for this short film that we shot. What was it last two weekends ago now? So I finished editing that in like 2 days. We chatted about it last week, and we had a little screening for it, the cast and crew, on was it Saturday? And they loved it, and they were cracking up the whole time. So I'm really excited to premiere that for everyone online tomorrow. And we're also working on another project. Lachelle is writing a series, and we want to create like sketches that utilize the same characters from the series, but that are kind of short, like ancillary type of stories that we can shoot low budget and use as like fundraising material to help build up some momentum and some fundraising for the actual series, which would cost a little bit more than that. So we had a couple more actors over after the screening, and we did a table read of Lachelle's scripts. So now I'm kind of in pre-production mode on that project while wrapping up this other project, Passive Income. So just bouncing between short films now. I love doing it, And I also edited a video. I forgot that I had a client last week for F&F's Pizza.
F&F's Pizza. Where are they located?
Yeah. So they have a couple locations. There's one in, I think it's Cobble Hill. And it's a really, really great pizzeria, family style pizzeria shop. They have wood ovens. They have the classic gas ovens. And yeah, they have
now you're talking my language, Sanjay. Now we have an interesting program, okay? Now we got some interesting programming notes here.
They have a notable chili sauce, which they sell, a chili oil, which they sell. So I was basically cutting together some socials for them, social media recaps for them, and their pizza series where I guess once a month they invite people from the community to enjoy pizzas and beers and have a nice time.
Well, that's exciting. And how long have they been a client of yours?
I actually just got connected with them last week, so we'll see. This is like the first video in a whole series, so we'll see how that progresses.
How long was the video?
So I gave them 8 clips that were anywhere between like 15 seconds and a minute long. So they're going to figure out which ones they want to use and put on their socials.
All right, so they haven't put anything up yet?
No, I just sent them the files like 2 days ago.
F&F Pizza?
F&F Pizza.
So continue to follow F&F Pizza to see which videos they select and to see Sanjay's craftsmanship when it comes to pizza videos. Nuvee Spotlight, one of my favorites. Prelude. Why'd you pick Prelude as your Nuvee Spotlight?
Another Nuku exclusive, and probably the first Nuvee to go on to Nuku, actually.
Yeah.
So this one, we were talking about Prelude last week. I forgot what the context was, but I remember you mentioned it, and I said, you know what, that would be another great project for us to talk about, because not unlike Living Room Comics, this was another opportunity where me and you got together and we collaborated on a film project. I always love collaborating with you on film projects, and hopefully there's another opportunity soon for us to do that. But Prelude was a collaboration where you had the story that you had known for a long time.
Well, I had it. I didn't even have a completed story. What I had was the basis of a story that had been like swimming around in my mind for a long time. This like very general idea of what it would be, when it would be, how it might come together. And it was, you had the opportunity, I think it started with you creating something that might get screened at a film festival. It might have been Cannes, or was it, am I remembering that wrong? Then it ultimately became something else.
That's right, because I was going to Cannes. I was going to Cannes Film Festival. I had that booked, and I said I can either tag along with another film as a producer, or I could direct something myself. And I wanted to direct something, but the timeline for that ended up getting pushed. So I ended up producing another project, and that was a different thing altogether. But it gave us more time to work on the script for Prelude.
So actually, Prelude really, it wasn't a story I had written. I had this idea for a story. It was in my mind. It had been in my mind for a long time. But just the basics of the story, kind of a skeleton of who was in it and when it took place and what kind of happens in it. And I think it was related to you having the opportunity at the Cannes Film Festival. And we started talking about that. We had just done the Tonight Show stuff. And then you get invited to the Cannes Film Festival, have an opportunity to show something, and it was kind of like, you knocked on my door, and you're like, got any great stories, fatso? No. So I was talking about this idea. You were like, I love it. And I remember like a week passed, and I don't even know if you remember this part of the story, but the timeline for Cannes to get it, to create it and put it at the film festival was too short. It just wasn't going to be able to happen. But you still wanted to go forward with it and do something with it. So you had said about a week after that, you were like, all right, yeah, how's the, like story? And you said you were going to start like writing the script. And I thought to myself, but like, even I don't know the story. Like, what the hell, what are you going to write? So I was in I didn't really know where to start. And it's one of a few things, it's a handful of things that I've written in my life where it started just with the first line. I was laying in bed, I was living in East Meadow, I was staring up at the ceiling, and I caught the first line. It's probably like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, the first line. And I get the first line, and I know the characters, well, then the other guy, well, what? And then it just kind of like started to write itself in my head. It was really a strange sensation, and I've had that sensation before with things that I've written, where it seems like it's writing itself in my head. And I got probably through 2 pages of dialogue in my head where I just had to get up from bed and start writing it. So I got up, I had a MacBook, I started writing it, and I wrote clear through the night until like 6 o'clock in the morning. Wrote the whole thing, gave it to you, and then you turned it into an actual movie, which was cool.
Yeah. That was a long process. It was the first short film that I had taken on with such great production quality. We were using a very expensive camera at the time. The Alexa camera had just come out. We were shooting in the fire protected forest, so we had the fire department on set. We had all these game pieces fabricated specifically for the purpose.
Where is that stuff? Where are the props?
All that stuff's on Long Island.
Oh, you have it, though.
Yeah.
Because, don't throw it away before you call me. I'd like to... Now, the weird thing is obviously I wanted to be on set for it. I wanted to be on set, but my schedule at the time just didn't allow me to be on set for it. And that added to the fun because while I really missed the opportunity to have been on an actual movie set like that as like the writer of the story, then led to a more interesting experience months later when you premiered it at the Dolby Studio in New York City. So I get to sit and watch this thing that up until that moment did not exist except in my own head. And see it come to life. It was a very weird but very rewarding and interesting experience. And that made it so much better for me. That I wasn't on set, really didn't see the look of the film, didn't really hear any of the characters speak the dialogue, didn't really...
I didn't show you any dailies. You didn't see any dailies or any...
No, nothing.
Shots before, yeah.
No. And I think if anybody's going to write a story and have it become something like that, I would recommend doing it the way I did it. Because it was way cool. It was way cool.
You have to have a lot of faith in the director that you're hiring that's not going to, botch up your script or your story at all. But
well, I mean, it's a different relationship for us because, like, neither one of us hired the other. It's just this is what we were doing, and it kind of all came together. And I've always said, for anybody that hasn't seen Prelude, I think it's worth watching. It's 18 minutes of your life. I hope it's 18 minutes that you'll be happy you spent watching this story. And I've always felt that if there was ever a good amount of people like that enjoyed the story, that we could do like a sit down and narration and talk through the story, almost like, director's notes over on the commemorative DVD release of Prelude, because I think there's a lot to unpack in the story and the decisions you made with what was originally written, that I think if you do like the story, if you've seen the story, I think you'd benefit from it because it's a really interesting insight to have, where the story came from and then how it got to the screen. I think that there's definitely something there.
I agree. That's you got the wheels turning in my head now for a commentary.
Commentary on a Nuvee, yeah. I would be down for that immediately because there are things about the current state of Prelude. If you were to go to nuku.com and you were a subscriber and you were able to watch the Prelude, I do have notes and I do have suggestions and I have, it's not commentary, it's insight behind what was going on in my head when it was thought of. So I feel like there's a lot to share. I really think that it would be cool. And to me, it reminded me, there was this story called The Man from Earth. And I remember right when I first got my Netflix subscription, whatever time of the year, whenever that was, I don't know, mid-2000s? I couldn't even tell you. But I remember I got obsessed with, like, independent film or not major releases. And Netflix had, like, an independent film section where I did watch a bunch of independent films in that moment. and one of them was called The Man from Earth. I thought it was just fantastic, but it was really based on a science fiction story written many, many, many years ago, and it turns out there are lots of fans of this particular story. The idea of the story, The Man from Earth. There's fans of that, and there's been a couple of iterations of it, and then there was a sequel created, The Prelude, or The Devil You Don't Know, which was what I called the story before you made the movie, Prelude. I feel like it's one of those, it could be one of those stories. It could be a story that people read or watch your film and get interested in to know more of the background of the story. That's what, I guess that was my hope for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's actually part of the reason why we renamed it also, is because we wanted there to be a little
You
more...
hated the name of the story, that's why you renamed it.
No,
you
we wanted there to be a little more...
shit, and we don't want this, none of this devil you don't know crap.
We wanted the viewers
Mike's
to have
not even
a
here
little
on
more
site. Who cares?
speculation as to who the characters were. And I think kind of the God Devil Man story was kind of a giveaway by the title. And I think what was interesting feedback from viewers that had no association with the project at all is they were telling me about halfway through the film they realized that those were the characters.
Yeah, listen, all right, listen, good for you. Good for you with your naming. You were very good at naming things. But I don't know, and I did put some thought into calling it that, The Devil You Don't Know, and I felt that there wasn't enough in that title alone, because it's part of an idiom. The devil you don't know is better than the devil you do. You know, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. I felt that I don't think that immediately people would see the characters and go, oh, I know what's happening here. One of them is devil, one of them is God, and one of them is man. I don't think, but yes, I think it was easier to get where you want. And I'm glad. I'm very happy that people thought that. But here's the interesting thing that I would definitely share in a Nuvee commentary series, if we were ever going to do that, is that even though the story started in here somewhere, or maybe from in here and there, I still don't know which one is which. I didn't write it with a clear defining thing, person A, person B, one is God, one is the devil. I don't know. And my opinion on who is who changes every time I watch it.
No, I think that's interesting, actually, because I needed to make a decision just so I could have definitive character intentions when I was directing the actors. Even in those decisions, just because the actors are aligned with a specific intention or motivation, you can still perceive it as the opposite character or a different character. You can still switch them around.
Yeah, there is definitely one definitely seems like he's more this, and the other one seems like he's more that. Right. But I could sit here in a court of law and I could tell you why I think one could be the other, and it could be switched around.
Exactly.
So that's a good one. Prelude. If you haven't seen Prelude, it's the first Nuvee. Get your subscription together and view it right now exclusively and only. And those are two words that mean the same thing. At nuku.com. That's NUKHU.com. What's on your jag about the film festival experience? Because we've talked about that. Or am I looking at the wrong notes?
Well, we've never really talked about film festivals as a topic of discussion. You know, we've kind of hit on festivals in different capacities over the last couple of weeks. But you know, Prelude was screened at two film festivals. It was screened at very small film festivals, the Long Island Film Expo and the Magical Charm Film Festival at the Anthology Film Archives in the East Village. And they were both, you know, indie film festivals that were aligned with the kind of spiritual, mythical components of Prelude. But I wanted to have a greater discussion about film festivals because film festivals are supposed to be these platforms for filmmakers to not only showcase their work. You know, tens of thousands of filmmakers try to get into Sundance and Cannes and Tribeca every year. Only a couple hundred are selected at most, and less than 100 in each category. And ultimately try to not only get their film showcased, but to connect with other filmmakers, potential crew, potential actors, potential collaborators that they can then continue to make work with, and potential funders to continue to potentially fund their work. So these film festivals are supposed to function as not only showcases, but as networking venues and places where filmmakers can plan the future of their career. And what we've seen, especially since the pandemic, is we've seen more and more festivals appear, pop up, and kind of take advantage of filmmakers that are just trying to get noticed, and they're not necessarily offering what film festivals are traditionally supposed to offer. And not only that, when you look at the traditional film festivals like Cannes or Tribeca or Sundance, even those notable film festivals are less and less offering what they claim to offer to the filmmakers that they're inclusive of. Quite often we're seeing them now have to struggle to bring audience members to attend their festival. So rather than actually serve indie markets and rather than actually serve filmmakers that are just starting out or breaking out new actors or new roles, like we saw with Little Miss Sunshine, we saw some breakout actors with that film. You see film festivals, notable film festivals, working in tandem with studios now and kind of serving as like a new distribution window where they kind of screen these films for a tester market at film festivals, try to garner some sort of publicity or press or attention within a film critic circle, and then kind of really orchestrate how that film is released after the festival premiere, from when it's screened theatrically to when it's premieres online, and then to when it's up for Oscar consideration. So I wanted to talk about film festivals because they were originally supposed to be for independent filmmakers in a way that was to help independent filmmakers provide opportunity and access in a way that the studio system didn't really do that. And what we've seen over the years is the film festivals kind of become studios. And I wonder if you had any insight on that, or if you had any perspective. Have you been to film festivals? Do you have any shared experiences that you can say maybe didn't hold up to what your expectations were?
My experience with film festivals boils down to the stuff I did with you when we dropped Prelude, and that weird one with the white masks. Did they play Prelude at that one, or we were just there to go? Is that the one you were talking about with the white masks on the table?
A Magical Charm? Did you go to that?
That was Magical. I think I went to one of them. For sure. I go to a lot of movies, but I'm not a movie critic. So I would say, from the outside looking in, I thought that film festivals showed everything. Not only independence. I thought it was whatever movies thought that they could garner some sort of traction or publicity would be submitting to film festivals. That's as I understood it. But if you're saying, like, in the past it was one thing and now it's kind of morphing into another, that seems like the way the entire entertainment industry is morphing. Yeah, I saw was it Fran Drescher? Somebody, Justine Bateman, was talking about how the industry has changed so much because of the major company platforms, the Apple TVs, the Prime Videos, and Netflix. And she was talking about how the Prime entertainment is not their number one business. So they kind of use entertainment to get subscriptions and make the money off of the other things. Similar to Apple. Apple makes technology, but they use entertainment, they fund studios, and she was talking about how that makes things different. I don't really know how that all plays into your conversation about film festivals, but to answer your question, no. I have not been to many film festivals. I think I only went to the one. There's no reason why I wouldn't. I just feel like I don't know if I would sit down and watch movie after movie after movie after movie after movie. While I love the movie-going experience, I don't think I love it in that way. Like, if I go to a movie on the weekends, like, if you told me, yeah, we're going to do a film festival, it's going to take place over 3 months, and you have 3 months to watch these 12 films, or 12 to 20 films, roughly, then I'd be like, all right, yeah, sign me up. I'll go watch 1 or 2 a week in the theater and tell you what I think about it.
So you had no interest in, like let's say somebody offered you a job to be like, Mike, we're going to pay you a salary to just go to movies, watch movies, and then write about them, write what you think about them, write whatever you feel like. You wouldn't take that up?
No, sign me up immediately. Of course, I would absolutely do that. I don't know. I think if it's my job, yeah, it would be definitely on the list of jobs that I would enjoy doing. Not to say that there wouldn't be some sort of change, after you're sitting there 8 hours a day watching 3 or 4 movies. But it's not that I wouldn't go to a film festival. It's that it really hasn't come up in my situation. It's not like I've been offered to go and invited to go places and haven't gone. It never really was something that I sought out, nor was I invited.
All right, well, since you don't really have a lot to add to the film festival conversation, I'm curious, if you were to be a film critic, how would you navigate that? Because being a film critic generally means that you have to criticize. And for the most part, whenever we do our weekly recaps of films, we're both speaking very highly of the films that we're recommending. They are recommendations. We're not given like a list of films and we're like tearing into them. So
No.
I'm curious if that would be something that you would be opposed to, especially when the filmmakers, being a filmmaker and understanding how much work goes into being a filmmaker, if you would feel like you're kind of hurting someone's baby in a way.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know the answer to the question. I am not opposed to negatively criticizing a film that I've gone to see. I don't get on a soapbox and do it. If it was my job, that would be different. I probably would qualify all of my statements with the fact that I'm based, it's opinion. Yes, there are some specific things that you can say this film was terrible because the sound editing was horrible, or this film was terrible because the story went nowhere.
Technically,
yeah, there are things, but if you're telling me whether I like it or I don't like it, that's a different thing. I've seen some terrible movies in my day, man. I've seen some really, really bad ones. The thing is, the bad ones escape my brain. I don't remember the names. I should, but I don't. And some come to mind immediately when you say, like, the worst movies. I saw a mob movie, and it was playing at a small theater on Long Island. I have no idea if it was wide released or whatever. I happened upon the movie theater, and there was the thing that was playing. It looked good. It was a mob movie, and this thing was terrible. It was just awful. It was not good at all. The writing was bad. The performances were bad. Everything about it was bad. And I leave thinking, that person, whoever's involved in this movie, must have spent $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, maybe more, likely more, to create that, and I don't know what they were thinking. And then I think, well, all right, what if they had personally invested it because it's their dream to do it? By all means, I love that. In fact, I feel like that might be where I'm headed in my life, is where I might personally fund something because it's my dream to do it. But if I was paid to do it, yes, I would absolutely criticize movies. If it's not my job, I won't recommend a movie I thought was bad. I'll tell you I didn't really like it, but I don't think I'm not that type of person to get on social media and blast a movie, and say it was terrible for XYZ.
I've met some film critics firsthand, and they've said that they've burned some bridges because they've ripped into some films so much that the filmmakers backlash that man, it caused a bunch of drama. So I'm aware that that's definitely a point of contention for film critics, but I have a feeling like you're not doing your job if you're not being authentic to your criticism.
Yeah.
Like Ebert and Roper, like those guys are notable film critics, and they didn't give 4 out of 4 stars for all the films.
No, I still remember one of their critiques was of when Star Trek The Next Generation put out their first movie, Star Trek Generations, which was kind of like this passing of the torch movie, and I still remember the Siskel and Ebert, critique, and I remember like being butthurt about it because I was like, they're not Star Trek fans, though, so they don't really get the nuance of the show. And because I thought the movie was fantastic. So, not every movie is for everybody. So we shouldn't, I think if it's your job to judge, go ahead. The whole world loves to judge anyway. That's what social media is, the entire thing. Think about the days when your dad owned the restaurant and some one person comes in and has a bad experience, and the first thing they do is go to social media and trash the restaurant for 14 paragraphs. I think that is not good. I think there's one thing of calling the restaurant and making a complaint and allowing the restaurant the opportunity to make it good, but it's weaponized because all right, I'm not going to call the restaurant and tell them how bad it was. I'm not going to call the filmmaker and tell them how bad I thought it was. I'm not going to call the actor and tell him how bad I thought his performance was. I'm going to tell the world. I'm going to tell everybody I could meet and wait for them to, because obviously people do it in a restaurant or a car dealership setting or any other kind of business because they want a response. They hope that the place will call back and go, oh, take that down, I'll give you money. That's disappointing because, when's the last time you bought something on Amazon and you looked at the reviews? There's 11,000 reviews, and every single one has a couple of hundred one-star complaints. But how do you know that those are even real people? How do you know the 5 stars are even real people? You can't know anymore. So it's almost pointless. You got to buy what you're going to buy, and, caveat emptor. You know what that means? The buyer beware.
Yes, buyer beware.
All right, my recent favorite film, since we're talking about films, it's what we do. It's not only what we do. It's that, but not only that. I watched it last night. It was called Superman Red Sun. Are you familiar with it at all?
Is this a new film?
It's not new. It came out in 2020. I traced the origins of the story. I asked some friends who know comics. They said the idea for the story goes back like early, maybe the 70s, 80s. But I've only found, I didn't do a lot of deep dive, but I found like a 3 episode comic series in like the early 2000s that detailed this story. And if you don't know anything about it, essentially it reimagines the idea of Superman as if his spaceship landed in Russia rather than Kansas. So wow. Superman, the superhero, grows up in communist Russia and is basically, instead of truth, justice, and the American way, he is for communism and their way of life and that way of life. Fantastically creative, really imaginative, very well done. I read the plot after I saw the movie, which came out in 2020. It's an animated film, but it is very edgy for animation, and it's graphic and kind of tells a partially truthful idea of what it might be like, but then the other superhero characters get involved too, so it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. But fantastic story, really well done. Very different from the 3-episode comic series, which has its own wrinkles and stuff, but just that idea, it's kind of like an alternate universe approach, but I'm okay with it. Because I usually think mostly alternate universe of the multiverse, all that bullshit, is kind of like a cop-out a little bit. But with this, I don't think so. I think it's just saying, hey, no, imagine this world, but instead of landing in America, he lands in Russia, lands in the Ukraine. And what would happen to the last 75 years of history if that were so.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So was the film bleak at all, or did it have like action elements? Like, was it like a high production type of film, or was it kind of just like a bleak and slow film?
No, it was high production. It was animated. It was done well.
Animated. Okay.
Yeah, it was animated, done very well. I think that you get a real sense for what what the writer of the story was trying to convey in terms of the instillment of the ideals of the society around this alien who comes and crashes on the planet. And at the core of what makes Superman is his dedication to people. He wants to save people. But you definitely see how he could still save people through being raised as a communist in Russia versus saving people being raised as in the capitalist society of America. So, it was intriguing. It was very intriguing. A little out there, of course, but it was intriguing.
Nice. My favorite film of the week is going to be Closer by Mike Nichols. I love Mike Nichols.
I've ever seen it.
I love Mike Nichols as a director. He really gets character relationships and character dynamics really well. And this is a really quirky film. This was starring Natalie Portman, Jude Law, Julia Roberts, and Clive Owen. The relationship of two couples become complicated and deceitful when the man from one couple meets the woman of the other. So I won't give anything away, but it's a really nice twist of two kind of couple intertwining and a mystery kind of. I love a good mystery. The mysterious elements involved and who these identities are, who they say they are.
It's Closer, Clooser.
Closer.
Closer. All right, yeah, I hadn't heard of it. How long ago did it come out?
Not too long ago, about a decade ago, I think.
Gotcha. Closer and Superman Red Sun. Superman Red Sun is available on HBO Max. That's where I saw it, and I guess tonight I will look and see where I can watch Closer.
Yeah, I believe it's on Netflix.
I still have my Netflix account. Yep.
You have the ad-supported one, or are you paying for the $15 a month?
I get the one with the commercials.
With the commercials. How's the experience with the commercials?
I don't mind sitting through commercials. I do not mind.
It cuts them through like the whole thing, or do you watch them all?
I haven't watched enough Netflix to know. I know HBO Max's activation is very good. It cuts it where it would normally be cut if it were a TV movie or a TV show. I feel like Amazon doesn't do that. Amazon's the one where halfway in the middle of a sentence it cuts out and goes to Hulu. Again, Hulu, not so good. But HBO Max, I think, for the most part, does a pretty good job.
Another good point to highlight that the ad experience on Nuku has a special destination where you can go and watch ads separately, earn all your credits to spend on films, and then watch them in their entirety, uninterrupted.
How does someone put an advertisement on Nuku that then you use for people to earn their credits? How does somebody advertise on Nuku?
So all they do is create a Nuku account. They go to submit. They go to New Spot, and they submit a New Spot. Once the New Spot is approved, along with their campaign budget and their target audience, it gets streamed to anyone that launches a New Spot session.
That's exciting. That's
Yeah.
cool. I'll talk to the PC Richard and Son people about that.
Yes.
Gotta get on this. Anything else before we wrap up?
So last week we had our first weekly meetups, in-person meetups at Big Bar. We had some really great filmmakers come through. It was nice to meet all of you. And we'll be hosting another one, our second one, tomorrow at Bonnie V. So come through, hang out from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. if you're in the neighborhood. And stay tuned for Passive Income, our next short film that we'll be releasing on Nuku tomorrow.
Where's the meetup tomorrow night? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Bonnie V.
Bonnie V. All right, you catch Sanjay and the Nuvee Club friends and the Nuku.com friends tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I won't be there. I will be at a radio station event called Taste of the South Shore. But I'll be thinking of all of you in Filmland, talking about new projects and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes, and we're also very excited for Jim Bigwood, who will be joining us in 2 weeks.
Jim Bigwood will be joining us in 2 weeks. Stay tuned for more details on that, but I'm excited about it as well, and I'll be putting together that voiceover for you tomorrow. But other than that, I think it's been a fun show. For Sanjay Singh over there in New York City and myself, Big Mike, we will see you next week, same time, hopefully, with Working Technology. You can follow us as always at Nuvee Club on Instagram and at Nuku on YouTube and Spotify. Sanjay, tell the people goodbye.
Take care, everyone. Have a great week.